once we've ground up our combs and our cutters, we want to check that they're sharp. Keep harping on about it. 80% of whether you're getting a cut or not is whether it's sharp. The other 20% that we're looking for is from everything else that you've learnt, but you've got to know whether they're sharp or whether they're blunt. So let's have a look at it. We've ground on this disc, and this disc is conical. It's flat from here to here. Because it's conical, our comb or our cutter gets a hollow in it from tip to heel. So we've got a hollow this way. So our comb has got a hollow in it this way. Our cutter has a hollow in it the same way. And they come together and we end up with a cutting action. The cutting action goes like that, just like a pair of shears, a pair of scissors, hedge clippers, whatever you want to think about. As far as cutting goes, you always end up with a scissor action. The scissor action between the comb and the cutter gives you 24 different edges on the comb, 8 different edges on the cutter, and we're trying to put them together, and we're trying to get them to all be in the one plane so that we use less tension, our cut lasts longer. So we've got 24 cutting edges here, we've got 8 cutting edges on our cutter. We want them to come together and we want the same pressure on each one. Because of that, what we've done is we've got a hollow here, a hollow here. The most pressure is always at the tip of the cutter. So the most pressure is always at the tip of the cutter here. So let's just have a close look at the handpiece and see where the most pressure is. Because where the most pressure is, when it's blunt, that's where it's going to be the bluntest. Let's have a look at that. This is a blunt comb and cutter we've got on here. Because of the concave shape of the comb, because of the way we've ground it on the grinder, and the shape of the disc, we end up with a concave. And the same with the cutter, we end up with a concave. We put the two together. And the most pressure, as you can see, because where the chicken feet press on the cutter, the most pressure is put up here on the tip. And this is where it's going to get the bluntest. So even if you're just taking off a frib or doing a little slow blow, the wool's, all the wool's going to get cut up here. This is always cutting. And the bottom side is, should be anyway, doing more cutting than what the top side is. So check the bottom side more so than the top side on the comb, and the cutter check every tooth. But down here is not where it's going to get its bluntest. It's up here at the end of the cutter, because that's where the most pressure is between the comb and the cutter, even if there's nothing getting cut. So check here, 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 or every cutting edge. Just check the comb on every cutting edge, check the cutter. The cutter is going to get bluntest mainly on the tip, because the most pressure is on the tip of the cutter here. So if the tip's sharp, then the 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, the rest of it's going to be sharp. So where we're looking here, here, and we're looking at the tip of the cutter mainly. I've tried to focus this in as best as I can. I'm the world's greatest photographer, but the point I'm trying to get across is that a light will shine on something that's there. So a light will shine on a round edge, but it won't shine on a sharp edge. So the rounder the edge, the more the sun shines on it. That's why I wear a hat. I've got a bald head and the sun shines on it really well. But my nose being pointy didn't cop so much sun. So using that theory, let's have a look at this. It's not a theory, it's a fact. So you'll see here, good welding rod. You'll see here the, like I said before, the bluntest this comb is up here. See that white line running up here? Not so blunt down here, but it's blunter up here because of the pressure from the cutter is more up here. So it's the same on every tooth. See the white line there, white line here? So that's blunt. Here, here. Whether it's not so good in focus, not so much in focus down here, but up here. So what you want to do is to have a good light. I've actually got a headlamp here tied up onto a, anyway, you don't want to know about it, but yeah, to get a light. So you need a good light. The best light I've ever found is in a shearing shed on a bright sunny day. Go to a dark place in the shed and find a nail hole in the roof with the sun shining through it. go to that nail hole. That's the best light I've ever found. So work your way back from that. A fluorescent light, it's not so good because it puts out too much light. You want a nice little pointy light. So if you muck around, find yourself a light, especially if you're grinding at home, and just set up one light so that it's a nice pointy little light. Go over to it and just flash your gear through it, and they show up like they show up here, real easy. And you want the light to be shining from there. So this light is actually shining from on that angle. So because it's shining on that angle, it's shining down onto these blunt edges, and it's showing them up. You can see up here where the cutter hasn't been rubbing, it's not round, so there's no light shining on it. Here it's round, light shining on it. Where it's round, it's blunt. The blunt cutter is the same. You can see the rounded edges here where it's blunt. You can see how the light is shining on these edges here. Again, it's more prominent at the top than what it is at the bottom or the tip because of the hollow or the concave in the cutter. It's more pressure on the tip than what there is in back here, so it's blunter here. So if we turn it around, you can clearly see the white lines or the blunt edges or the round edges running up the side of the cutter. And on the tip, there's a lot of light because it's very blunt, especially on this one here. So what I'm trying to point out is exactly that. When it's round, it's got something for the light to shine on, so it will shine on it. If it's shining on a round surface, the round surface is blunt. We want to take enough steel off this side here until such time as we get rid of all those white lines. So that's what's blunt. So here's some cutters that I've ground up, and there's a blunt one right smack bang in the middle. So we look at the tips. We're just looking across the tips. If we got the light, we're shining it backwards and forwards. See the middle one? It's that blunt round edge. That's that cutter we were looking at previously. Just stuck in a pile of cutters. It's definitely still blunt. It could be a burr that you're looking at, so just touch it. If you touch it and it moves, then it's a burr. But if, like this one, we can rub it as much as we like, and it's not going to go away. So that cutter's still blunt, and we pull it out. It's that same blunt one we were looking at previously with the rounded edge. So when you're finished, go to your cutters that you've ground up for the day. Before you put them on back on the wire, and you're back on your string, just get them and take a look through them, and you'll soon pick out the blunt one. Okay, so now you know what's blunt. So what's sharp? When you can't see those round edges, that's when it's sharp. So sharpen your comb, sharpen your cutter, get a good light coming in, get yourself a pair of goggles and have a real good look, and check out where the cutter's been rubbing on the comb. Check out the tips of your cutters and make sure they're not round. Once you've spent a bit of time having a look, having a good study, you can even grab one of these. These are fantastic to get up close and have a look. Grab a magnifying glass, borrow your wife's glasses, whatever you like, but learn what's sharp and what's blunt. Once you know what's blunt, then once it's sharp, it's sharp. You'll see a burr all the way up the edge. Once it's sharp, you can touch it with your thumbnail. If it moves, it's sharp. With a cutter, I find a great way with a cutter to see if it's sharp is to simply tap it on your fingernail. If you simply tap it on your fingernail, if it's sharp, it won't run. If it's round, it'll slide over. If it's sharp, it'll just dig straight in. So that's a simple way of having a look to see if a cutter's sharp. But you don't need to do that to every cutter. What you want to do is just learn first off what's blunt, what's sharp. Then once you know it's sharp with your same light coming through all the time, you'll end up just having to sharpen your cutters. You'll check them. Yep, they're great. Combs, just slip it onto the side, light over your head, have a look and see what's sharp. 80% of it's if it's sharp, and away we go. So you can do it easily, repetitively, especially with one of our new expert pendulums, and get a cut. And yeah, just hope you don't cut the tits off when you're taking off the brisket. So when you do that, you know you got it right. Okay, good shearing, and hope we've made life a bit easier for you. Have fun.